You're listening to NT Paranormal After Dark. Nothing normal about it.
Welcome back, folks, to NT Paranormal After Dark, the podcast. Today, we are talking about paranormal true crime. That is cases of murder, crime, deceit. I have to switch the camera over to what's just happening over here.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
We're talking about cases of crime, murder.
Did you lick your finger?
Sure
This is completely
Crime,
inappropriate.
murder.
committing crimes.
Can you not scream into the microphone?
No.
Doing crimes.
But these are legitimate cases of. Are they all murders, or did you look up some other stuff too?
A good portion of them are, because you know how I feel about murder. I do.
Allie loves murder.
I do. I do have, of course, the Elisa Lam case. And then, of course...
Whatever that is, sure you did.
And then, I pulled up some, interesting stuff on suicides that at the Cecil Hotel, which we can talk about later when we talk about Elisa Lam.
Okay, so... But these are cases that, went to court or were studied by the police... and things like and made news, but have some sort of relationship to the paranormal. I murdered my family, but it wasn't me. I was possessed by the devil.
Or the Son of Sam guy. The neighbor's dog told me to do it.
Yeah, and I thought it was an interesting topic to bring up because there's so many of them. But I was curious how many of them we could find where it wasn't just completely written off as that was just the BS story they came up with to try to get an insanity plea. Like Son of Sam, he admitted. David Berkowitz, he
later admitted that he was just messing with everyone.
He was like, it's just
it for thrills.
Yeah, and it was total bullcrap. But there are some cases out there where they actually used that defense in court. One of the big ones was the Annalise Michaels case, which that wasn't a murder, but
how very Twinky defense Harvey Milk is that? The devil made me do it.
Yeah, pretty much. Or it was the demons. It was the demons.
Well, with Annalise Michaels, which is the Emily Rose case, that was she died due to nutritional neglect from the family and everybody that was supposed to be caring for her. And they actually brought the demonic possession stuff into the court case. There's one I looked up to that I wanted to talk on too, which was the Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, where that was the first time that they had that they even brought up the idea of using demonic possession as a defense, in the court. And that was a really interesting case. So I was curious, what you had come up with being our criminologist person.
That just reminded me of a case I wish I had written down about a guy who went home and killed his wife, by ripping out her tongue.
Ooh.
Say that, because he was possessed.
Well, what do you remember of it off the top of your head?
I remember that him and his wife basically kind of joined a cult. And
as happens,
as one wants to do. And he became infatuated with the preacher, who happened to be a very attractive woman. And
that already turns me on.
You're so gross.
And so, and he, I guess at one point, he and her, were alone. And
Say her.
Her? Fuck you.
Her.
She nailed that F word, but her.
Yeah, that F word had no accent.
I like to have a multi-regional fuck you. But yeah, her, he became infatuated with her, and then, he, basically tried to confess his love for her and leave his wife and this, that, and the other. And then she's like, whoa, man, nah. And then he started acting out,
Was his name Michael Taylor?
I think so. I think that's the case.
Notable in England in 1974 as a result of the Ossett murder case and alleged demonic possession.
Yeah, so from what I understand, he started acting out, and then he was all, they assumed it was demons, so they started an exorcism.
Oh, he tore out her eyes and her tongue and almost tore her entire face off, strangled their poodle, and was found by a policeman naked in the street covered in blood.
Yeah, that's the one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one. That's awesome.
I'm more mad about the poodle.
Yeah, no.
Oh, I hate poodles. Gross,
but
gross dogs.
Still, animal is like way over human.
But it's one of those things where they started an exorcism, and they I think like because they grew exhausted or whatever, they're like, okay, we'll pick back up on this after we get some rest, And then he went back home, and then murdered his wife. And he says he was possessed and this, that, and the other. Honestly, I think he was just acting out.
He also went to jail for groping a teenage girl.
But is the possession thing just something that hit the media, or is that something that got brought up in court?
I believe that was brought up in court. I really can't.
As part of the defense, those were the ones I was really interested in.
Doesn't
The ones where it actually gets brought up on some kind of legal precedent.
It didn't say whether it was brought up in court, but it does compare it to the Annalise Michaels case.
Yeah, which is probably the most famous one. Probably just because it has a movie. The Emily Rose movie is based off of it.
Oh, it was
very, very loosely.
It was brought up in trial. He was acquitted on the grounds of his insanity because of all the stuff that was going on. He was sent to Broadmoor Hospital for 2 years and spent another 2 years in a secure ward in Bradford before being released. And then he went back to jail in 2005 for groping a teenage girl. A week into his prison sentence, he committed suicide.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
There you go.
Yeah. The other side of it, I was curious about that. I kind of wanted to explore too was like what our thoughts were as using the paranormal as some kind of legal precedent. Like, do we? Well, okay, so we're talking about the American justice system. So you're judged by 12 of your peers in a judge, and you got a prosecution and a defense. Can 12 people really come to a decision on whether or not your religious or your paranormal convictions, beliefs, things like that, can you just leave that up to 12 people to decide your guilt or innocence at the end of, each individual case or whatever?
So far, from what I understand, not in this century or the last one.
Well, if you go back to the Middle Ages...
I was about to say, I believe
there was no trial. You just got burned.
Yeah, I was about to say, I believe the sweet spot was probably the 19th century. Because, God, you get away with anything for any reason. One woman got away for shooting a man because she was under duress because he stole her virtue. That was a legal defense, and she was acquitted of murder. That.
Okay, by stole her virtue, did he molest her, or did he just take her hat off?
No, so in this case, I saw this on Deadly Women.
Did he violate her whispering eye?
Kind of. She
said whispering eye.
Because if he sexually assaulted her, she totally should have gotten off on that defense.
He basically did. So what happened was, this back in California, back in the 1800s, this woman fell in love with this man who was a known player, and he fell in love with her because
they didn't call it that back then. But yeah,
and
he was a rascallion,
pretty much. But
don't hate the rascallion, hate the game.
No,
okay. Anyway,
so so he And, of course, he fell in love with her, quote, unquote, fell in love with her. He just wanted to possess her because she apparently was very, very beautiful, and she was young and virtuous. And she wouldn't be with him unless they were married. And then he, kind of whisked her away with the promise of marriage, and they went to Arizona, where he basically locked her up in a hotel room, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go find a priest to go marry us. You stay here. And he didn't come back for a day.
This is like the plot of Beauty and the Beast, but when Disney does it, it's, okay.
Yeah.
Also, Arizona is the place that hopes and dreams go to die. So
well, it's where a lot of things die. And so, he kept her locked away, and he's like basically saying, hey, sleep with me and I'll go get a priest. And she's like, no.
Go get the priest and then
Yeah.
I'll sleep with you.
Yeah, pretty much. And he said no. So he pretty much took what he wanted.
Oh, well, then he had it coming, and that was a good...
Yeah, and then she was disowned by her very Catholic family. And the only person that stuck by her side was her sister. And she got a gun and shot him once in the eye. And ended his life. And she was acquitted.
Okay. Not quite paranormal, but I guess
No,
loosely related. 'cause of the
It's just
Greece.
interesting.
I just found it very interesting. It's just,
Well, no, I get it though. It's a weird defense. Like the way our defense has like evolved over the years. Like, well, the reason for this is theft of virtue, and that's the defense. Like, she's not denying that she killed the mother effer. It's that this is the reason it happened, and then they judge it based on that.
yeah,
and
pretty much. And, God, man, women used to get away with murder because of their period.
The hysteria.
Yeah, oh my God.
I think that one should
We
still
really
stand, probably.
God, we really missed out on that. But yeah, we used to get away with murder for our periods. But I see that Daniel brought up.
Yeah, they're already they're jumping straight to DeFeo.
Get off
Yeah.
DeFeo and Amityville.
Yeah, which that's the closest we could have ever gotten. But he was still convicted of cold-blooded murder.
So what I
Didn't we do almost a whole show about him at one point?
No, we were planning a whole show on him because I was writing him letters in prison. I haven't got a letter back, and so we were holding off because he'll actually answer letters sometimes or whatever. But screw it. We'll let's talk about the DeFeo case because I know I didn't research for
Yeah.
this show, but I do know a lot about the intricacies of the DeFeo case.
And
Yeah.
this is the one because my grandma's seen Amityville. So when she was asking what this podcast was about, because I've been like basically living over there, this is the one I used to explain it to her.
Yeah, and so, of course, everybody knows this is the basis for the Amityville horror, which actually takes place after the murders.
Right, that's about the Lutz family,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
about-
so
They moved in after the
yeah,
DeFeo.
the Warren case and the movie. What it is about is the 29 days that the Lutz family lived in the house after the DeFeo murders. The DeFeo murder, it's Robert DeFeo Jr., right?
Yes,
He murdered his entire family in one night. There's a little bit of backstory
He
in
didn't
there.
murder his entire family. I think he still has one living sister.
His sister wasn't home.
He murdered everyone in the house.
Yeah, his
Yeah, he
sister
murdered-
wasn't home at the time.
Yeah, so
But this was at is it 112 Ocean Avenue?
Yes.
Is that the original address? And
Yeah, 112 Ocean Avenue.
It's a Yellow Card song.
I know. I was thinking the song in my head.
and it's a cool. It's not haunted, but it is a cool looking house. Like
Yeah.
they've
They
had
changed the windows.
they've had to change it because it's so infamous because people will just hang out and it's actually on the market now.
Yeah, my mom was commuting for a couple years, and she drove by it on Long Island.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's a weird community. I mean, it's not like a lot of murders happen there.
Very quiet.
It was just the whole DeFeo thing was like completely out of nowhere. So fill us in on the case, like leading up to
Okay,
everything.
so at 6:30 p.m. on November 13th, 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. walks into a bar saying that his parents have been shot. Okay, so he and a group of people go to the house, and of course they're like, "Oh yeah, dude, your parents have been shot," and so they call the Suffolk County Police, and they show up to the house, and they realize that not only the parents have been shot, but his two brothers and two sisters have also been shot, or two of his brothers and sisters.
Right.
have
It was
also been-
the mother and father in bed
Four
in
younger
in the
siblings.
master, and then the four younger siblings.
right.
Two in the attic, and then I think two were on the same level as the
Yeah,
the
I think they
parents.
were. Yeah, and so the parents were each shot twice, and the children were all shot once.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it was a shotgun.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I wrote that down. It wasn't a shotgun. It was a .30 caliber lever action Marlin .336 rifle.
Okay. See, I think they use a shotgun in the movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes it in my memory, like it gets crossed. Because the original Amityville movie, I think they do like a flashback at the beginning to the DeFeo murder.
Yeah.
But what I think is so cool is there's some weird circumstances about the murder, which we'll get into in a second. Like they figure this out like during forensics and the court case or whatever. But
Yeah.
So he walks into the police station, says my family's been killed. They go back, they realize it. And he's not even a suspect, like at this particular point in time. Like they're going through and trying to figure stuff out. So what ends up happening where they figure out it's DeFeo did it?
Oh man, I forgot to write that one down. But
Well, I was trying. I know the answer. I was trying to lead you into it.
I wrote down like the weird. I just wrote down. Went straight into the weird.
Oh, okay.
I just went straight into the weird.
So, like, a lot of things don't add up, and basically what doesn't add up is his alibi is completely screwy, and they end up finding the murder weapon, and they realize, like, oh, this is, like, he used...
Yeah, and I think they found his prints on the murder weapon.
And his original story, like, he went in, he said they were murdering, and first he said he didn't know who did it, and then he said, oh, it was a gang of bikers came into the house and did this. And they're like, what? And like nothing added up. And then eventually, like his girlfriend, like had skipped town or something like that. And then a bunch of information came out that he had been feuding with his dad over money.
Yes, and so
so he had a motive for
the
life
biggest
insurance.
That was I did write that one down. Like that, the biggest motivator was the insurance money. And one of the things that he said in prison was that he and Dawn did it, his sister Dawn, but Dawn was one of the victims. Mm-hmm. So it kind of just didn't add up. But so to go into the weirdness.
Yeah, the very, very weirdness. Yeah, so they arrest him, they hold him, and forensics is going over the case.
So there was, or just as a side note, there was no surviving daughter. The one I was thinking about was the sister they thought had done it with him.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I think there were only 4 siblings. I didn't know about the surviving.
I kept hearing there was a surviving sister, and I guess I'm confusing Dawn with.
It's interesting though. Everyone hears that they all got found. None of them woke up, right?
Yeah, none of them woke up. They were.
But the first article I pulled up says there is evidence that 2 of them were awake at the time of the shooting.
Right. But
I've always heard they were all conked out.
Yeah, they were. I heard that even in the articles that I was reading, that they were all found face down. There was no evidence of sedatives. There was no.
Yeah, so they did
toxicology.
Yeah, toxicology shows that. Well, okay, so what led them to even do toxicology and all that? It's not that they thought nobody woke up. Nobody got out of bed.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a little kid and you're scared, what do? You hide under
bed,
under the covers. So that kind of that is kind of an explanation. But thing is all of them were face down, all of them were in bed, but none of them looked like they had been disturbed, like put back into bed, like a ritualistic sort of thing.
No one ran.
Yeah.
And nobody tried to escape.
And there was also no evidence that he used any type of silencer either.
Right.
And none of the neighbors heard gunshots.
Nobody heard gunshots.
Yeah, any of the neighbors that were awake at the time, all they heard was the dog barking. That's all they heard.
Yeah, and like you said, he didn't use this. You can't use a silencer on that type of rifle anyway. It's a lever action Marlin. But
the 70s was a good decade for murder, man.
And, it was.
And serial killers were first being
big. Serial killers were big in the 70s. You just can't murder like you could in the 70s.
But they figured out what order he did it in. It was the father, the mother, and then the 2 that were on the same level, and then he went up into the attic and killed the last 2, and then left, hid the weapon, and then immediately went to the cops or whatever. Like, they had a whole timeline, but nobody could fit. They're like, how come nobody got up? How come nobody tried to run away? And they like plotted it out, and they said, well, even somebody that was scared, somebody would have went like to the corner of the room. Like, there was no evidence that anybody left the bed. The other thing they looked at is nobody hid sweat into the bed. So like even if
Yes.
even if you were like afraid and you
or
froze,
or under any kind of duress.
yeah, there weren't any signs of that. Like it really looked like
They slept through it
until I guess whatever article you read, until recently they kind of discovered that. So they did toxicology to see if he had drugged everybody, and toxicology came back 100% clean.
Of course, there are things that can be in your system that don't show up on toxicology, just as a side note, but
I mean, yeah.
they're
of
pretty
course-
rare and hard to come by.
Yeah, and of course we know that now.
Well, and the other thing is DeFeo's not a smart guy. Like he's low IQ. He's technically like special needs.
A lot of killers that were very low IQ were actually really good. Like
really good at the
they're-
high IQ at killing.
they're really good at what they do.
Yeah, like I mean, even
Okay,
going back to the
interesting.
Green River Killer, like he was just a couple points over Forrest Gump, and he got away with murder till 2000. Till 2000.
It's almost like being a savant, where they're lacking IQ in other areas, but they're so good at this
Good at
one
planning.
thing.
Well, you know, I guess
it's
like,
a little bit of that, and it's also a little bit of the type of victims that they go after. I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all are familiar with the term "the less dead."
no, I am not.
You're not? Okay.
No, I'm not
so-
familiar with that term.
And
Should
it's-
I be?
Yeah, because I mean, it's relevant even to this day.
Okay,
because
well,
the less dead.
Let's fill us in.
The less dead would refer to the people, like basically like people that nobody really cares about, like your sex workers, your the poor,
like Dahmer picking up people outside of
yeah.
the gay bar in the 80s.
that won't be missed.
homosexuals, yeah, people that won't be missed, the people that are basically
So these would be
Yeah.
people that were like targeted by like H.H. Holmes,
off
Jack
the
the Ripper.
grid would be
yeah.
the
Oh
the
no,
modern
H.H.
term.
Holmes, he
He
didn't.
effed everybody.
No, he effed everybody. He
Oh,
no.
okay.
We're talking about people that like the Green River Killer targeted. We're talking about Dahmer. We're talking about
Bundy went after her, but it was generally women that weren't like.
yeah. A good example of it would be Robert Picton in Canada. Basically,
Yeah.
like people that like were addicts who just
Oh, and like Daniel said,
basically that society would.
I get you don't have to be hyper intelligent to be a good killer. I think my commentary was more on they're
To
going
find a poison that isn't on top.
yeah. It's there's probably good planning, and you know it's probably a very simple plan. The simplest plans work the best
Especially
usually.
back then, because it's not like they could Google poisons that don't show
Right,
up on toxicology.
Yeah. So as far as like poisoning somebody or not even sedating somebody so that you can shoot them, like that's a completely different. And we're talking about the 70s here.
Yeah, use
too.
something like succocholine, which they use when they
And he would need access
do
to stuff
surgery.
like that too.
So
yeah.
it's a paralytic though. Like you can still feel anxiety. All it does is paralyze
Right.
you.
The other thing though is and one of the reasons it finally came back around to him is because he did have a criminal background and stuff like that. So that's not to say he didn't know someone else that could have coached him, said, "Hey, if you use this stuff, that sort of, and it won't show up on any, you know." So,
Right.
you know, if you just go straight off of like my comment before about him, you know, being below the normal IQ line, that's assuming he planned everything on his own and he was a lone gunman, that whole sort of thing.
Yeah,
And
I
then
always
that's-
kind of thought something else was going on there.
there's a lot that points to maybe somebody else was in the house at the time and they think maybe his girlfriend had at the time had something to do with it, and I
That's
don't
what
remember.
I was getting confused.
Oh, his girlfriend? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's survived by his girlfriend. She's not in jail or whatever and has done interviews.
But
and
the
stuff
point
like
of all this is that when he went to jail,
that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So he gets to jail and he's in the trial and he's talking about it, and that's when the paranormal parts of the story start to click together. So
Yeah.
so what ends up happening with all that?
So I mean, from what I understand, like that's when he like was saying that he was possessed, that like the other voices. Was it the DeFeo family with the flies, or was that the Lutzes?
That's the Lutzes.
That's the Lutzes.
That's the first part of the Lutz story. Is they went in and the whole place was like filled with flies and they couldn't get rid of them.
Right.
And the priest came by and the flies were there.
Yeah. So,
he had
But-
connections to a mafia crime family, and there was a rumor that his father had pissed off the mob.
Was that DeFeo or was that?
That's
DeFeo.
DeFeo.
Lutz. Okay.
That's
Because I
DeFeo.
keep getting the Lutz family and the DeFeo family. Like, they keep wanting to, like...
Basically, the Lutz family is the dad was like former military, and he was basically
They
like
needed some cash.
They needed some cash. He was abusive. He was pretty much a shit stepdad, from what I hear, and they got the Warrens involved, and the Warrens are involved in my case too, and.
Aren't the Warrens always involved when it's bullshit?
As more and more stuff come out about these Warren cases, it turns out there's a lot of money being promised that just kind of never turns up. So everybody's like, well, no one ever made a dime off of it. It's like, yeah, because they kind of sucked. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what happened with the Lutzes.
They are full of it.
We could do a whole episode on my dislike for the Warrens.
But
We should.
I believe specifically with DeFeo, the paranormal part of it is he said the devil was talking to him through the TV, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I was looking up. I was like trying to see, like, because I didn't write that down.
Yeah.
She's Allie.
Yeah, no, I kind of suck at this. I'm
So
I usually screenshot it.
basically what ended up happening is he ended up confessing to the crimes and saying how he did it. Like it went to trial or whatever.
I did it, but
Yeah, and he ended up giving this big long confession that said the devil told the house was screwed up. The devil was talking to me, and I believe the devil was talking to him through the television, and told him to kill his parents, and it didn't have anything to do with the money or the fights he was having with his dad or anything like that. And he ended up getting convicted basically on his account of things. But the reason the paranormal part of it was significant because there were so many things about the murder that didn't add up.
they're just off.
Yeah.
yeah, and he was his whole defense was, insanity. He's saying that, like, he heard voices plotting against him, and he was also a big fan of the heroin and LSD.
Something else the 70s was good for. Narcotics.
I wonder if they're related.
I wonder.
So.
What kind of connections to schizophrenia did they make with the paranormal aspects during the trial?
Well,
he was diagnosed with
Antisocial personality disorder.
There you go.
So he was what you would call a sociopath. It's
yeah.
Sociopath and psychopath. They're both antisocial personality disorder.
Yeah.
SPD.
But the sticking point, the other than the Lutz thing that came up later, I mean the paranormal aspect was always in the case, and it always stuck with everybody because there were those weird idiosyncrasies in the forensic evidence. Even after he was convicted of it, like they were still looking at the case, thinking some of the way things played out. Compared to what he said happened, even though he said, I killed so-and-so, and they're like, okay, that's the right order. Only the killer would know these things like that. But they still felt like there was somebody else involved. Like there was more to it. The reasons didn't add up. The timelines didn't fit. And so there was always this kind of like black cloud of his paranormal story kind of, it lends credence to it. And he was real prone to like mood swings and things like that. Of course, that goes into the psychological profile that was put on him by the professionals later anyway, which would simulate like possession or whatever. But a lot of people were still up on that. And then when the Lutzes moved in...
they also, diagnosed him with a dissociative disorder. That came up in the trial. This doesn't say whether schizophrenia specifically came up, but antisocial personality disorder did, and a dissociative disorder. So and a lot of those things are so close to schizophrenia that it's hard to diagnose one or the
In
other.
other words, he's crazy. He's a crazy guy.
Anyway, someone had asked.
Doing the coconut.
So.
But even crazy people are bound by the laws of physics, and there's
Yeah.
things that there were
Oh,
things.
someone had just asked if the schizophrenia came up during the trial.
Yeah.
that
Say
was-
people with dissociative disorder will too sometimes.
Well,
hear
yeah, and
stuff, see
it
stuff.
absolutely came up during the trial as part of the defense, you know, and they tried to prove like
They were trying to get him off on insanity.
I don't even know that they were trying to get him off because like he had admitted he had done it, but they were trying to put like a reason to it, and you know, hospitalization as opposed to prison time, things like that, and ultimately he's just in there for life without. I think he's locked up without the
no, he's
opportunity.
been up for parole a few times. He just gets denied every time.
Yeah,
They
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the paranormal thing, it would not die. And then when the Amityville horror thing broke, when the Warrens got involved with that in the Lutz case and all that, you know, because the Lutz's big thing is we found the red room with all the occult stuff in the basement down there, and I've seen the pictures of it. It's just like this little closet, and it's
you would think,
red, but
I was
it's
about to
not.
say, you would think that would have come up in the police investigation.
They knew about it. It wasn't like a secret room or anything. This was all fabricated by the like. So much stuff has come
Oh, yeah,
out
he's
about
talking
the
about
Lutz
Lutz's,
case.
George Lutz supposedly being an occultist, their grandfather supposedly being a Satanist, and my comment was Satanism is benign, but I can see how that would cause rumors, and that would
Yeah.
help make it stick. Being into the occult
Well,
and
and
stuff like that, it's totally
it also
benign.
depends how the person's throwing around the word. Like when they say Satanism, most people that say these people are Satanists don't mean that they're Satanists. They mean that they're devil worshippers or occultists, not actual like LaVey Satanists, which is a completely different thing.
Different thing.
They were. I know they were trying to be rebellious when they named their religion.
Yeah,
but
they were just trolls.
But they're idiots. They completely just like confused the shit out of
but
people.
also, well, that, and to be fair, if in a lot of
Oh no, sorry, DeFeo's still alive.
Yeah.
Well,
DeFeo,
Daniel had asked. I thought he was dead.
yeah,
but
DeFeo's
no.
in prison. Like
Yeah,
you
no.
can write him. I've got his cell
I
number.
just looked it up. No, he's still alive. Y'all are Mandela affecting yourselves. No, he's
No,
alive.
DeFeo's alive. Manson died recently.
Yeah,
that might
Manson's
be
died.
what they're thinking
But no,
about.
I just googled it because I didn't know for sure. But no, he's not.
Yeah, because I don't think there's a death penalty in.
I know, and he's only like 67. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I interrupted.
Oh no, it's fine. I was just saying, like, I mean, for a lot of people, there's no difference between, if you're not with the Christian God, then you might, then you're a Satanist.
Then you were the
well,
devil.
and this is also at the very grassroots of the satanic panic.
Yes.
Oh
the
yeah, this
start
helped.
of
This
that.
helped
Yeah, this-
kickstart it. Yeah,
Yeah,
this was part of
So
it.
you throw out the word Satanist or occultist back then, and you're bad.
Well, and I think it made the police work easier too. It's like he was a Satanist,
Satanist.
and then it's in the bag. Like you immediately have to
Yeah, you don't
prove
have to-
less
yeah.
Was
about
it
it.
Mindhunter? Have you watched the second season of Mindhunter?
Oh yeah.
But there's the one. Do you think this was a Satanist? No, I don't think this is a Satanist. I'm sure this was a Satanist. Everything was a Satanist.
I can't wait till it's like season 5 of Mindhunter, and they are straight up on the West Memphis 3. Woo! Because that's a good case, but
Anyway.
I mean, it's a sad case. It's a terrible case, but it's a
I
good
would
case.
love. I'd
As
love
far
to get
as
a.
Satanic Panic goes, that's a great case.
I think a really good episode, and we need to find. I know you know somebody, but we'd have to find somebody that'd be willing to come on the show. But I'd love to talk to an actual Satanist, like an interview. That's part of the Satanic Church to talk about the differences between like occultism, devil worship, and what Satanism actually is.
And the reason
and
so many of them don't
represents.
want to talk is because they think they're going to get railed on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
And no one believes them when they say this is it's not even a religion, it's an atheistic society. It's
Yeah. Well, their main purpose is to
troll Christians.
Well, not just it's not just trolling Christians.
the bad thing is they troll straight atheists too. They're
Well-
trolls.
Well, their whole thing is like their whole basis wasn't to be like trolls specifically. They were trying to point out the absurdities in like the reasons why the separation of church and state is necessary.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
love
if
it.
you're-
I
and
love
if
it when
you're
they put a
going-
Baphomet statue next to the Ten
Yeah,
Commandments.
so basically, like, if you're going to promote one religion, you need to promote them all because we do have freedom of religion, and you can't push your one religion down people's throat. But that's a whole nother thing. We're getting off topic.
Anyway, sorry.
Self-love. Hail Satan.
do as thou willst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, the DeFeo case did interest me because like when I looked at a lot of the forensic findings and all that good stuff, like it doesn't line up. Like the case on its own, even without the paranormal stuff, is just like really super interesting. And his initial story, and then his confession, and then supposedly somebody went to where he's at, interviewed him, wrote a completely different account of everything, and DeFeo is suing the guy. Says I never gave that interview, but there's like a lot of weird details. So it's a case of untrustworthy narrator, obviously.
Daniel's comment.
Sarah, I was Levain Satanist at one point. I could do that for you. That'd be very cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
we'd
that
be
would
open
be
to
really
that.
cool.
And you watch us, so obviously we wouldn't. Well, we would rail on you,
But
you
yeah,
know,
we're not gonna. We know Satanism's benign.
yeah.
And so, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say benign. I don't think any religion's benign.
Okay.
Christianity is definitely
it's
the
not- it's
least
a-
benign of all of them.
Yeah.
But and then so the Warrens come in, they work with the Lutzes. There's like all this mythology that builds up around it, and it just makes it even more. And now the children of the Lutzes, when they lived there during that, have come out and said, man, a lot of that was just total
Nonsense.
just total BS. Like the person that's responsible for the Amityville Horror book was basically like their lawyer.
Yeah,
and
I think the main proponent of of hey, this story is BS is I think the youngest son.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he hates George Lutz, which
Yeah,
was
well-
his stepdad.
Well, yeah, because he was abusive.
Yeah.
Well, and like all the movies paint him as not abusive until the stuff sets in, and then he becomes abusive.
And
So
it
it's
turns out, no, he was abusive the
yeah,
whole
it's like he's
time.
trying to blame his abuse on this house.
Well, and then there's some evidence that came out that they didn't even live there the whole 29 days or whatever. They spent a lot of that time elsewhere, and the kids had friends that were over at the house when supposedly some of this stuff happened. It's the whole thing was basically just like concocted, and the Warrens were brought in on it to add
Credibility.
legitimacy to the whole thing, and they're the ones that profited off of it the most. Them and the lawyer that
And
set
I'm
everything
really
up.
torn on the Warrens are just super gullible, and they're
I don't think they were
crooked.
gullible, but I think that, and I don't. No, well, okay. Wait until I tell you some of the stuff in this
Yeah, I
case
was about to
because
say,
it
how much-
specifically says that they were pushing the button. Where a lot of the other stories I hear, it kind of sounds like they turned a blind eye.
Yeah.
And they
but
were
the-
just kind of like, if it gets blown out of proportion, whatever, it's just kind of a thing.
Like how much of it is gullibility versus predatory,
I
like-
am well on record on this podcast of I cannot stand the Warrens, and none of their cases hold any kind of water to me. Well, I'll take one step back on that. It's the same theory I have with like Ghost Adventures and other ghost shows. You do something long enough, you'll accidentally wander into a
Yeah.
real case by accident once in a while. So I'm sure maybe at some point somebody, hey, my little sister's possessed, and they walk in and she's really walking across the ceiling that one time, but there's no evidence of it, so they can't make money off of it. So nobody knows about a lot of those cases, but all the ones that are popular, like Annabelle and the Amityville Horror and a lot
I
of
would like to get into their museum and just play with the doll, but
they won't let me in there. I'll steal that stupid doll.
I'll let it out of its cage and I'll touch it without the oven mitts.
I love the Ghost Adventures episode where they're jacking around with Annabelle and Zach touches it, so he puts it in the suitcase and like leaves. Because they act like Zach Baggins is just going to be possessed the whole time. And you know what
Whoa.
doesn't ever happen after that? He doesn't act possessed. It's maybe the one time
I
in
was
his
about to say,
entire
doesn't
career.
he always get possessed?
He always
It's the
gets
one time
possessed,
he
but
does
after
act
touching this stupid doll, the most haunted thing in the world, I think the very next scene he's like, I was at the cafe the next day and my car got hit by lightning, brah. And like, that's it. And then like, no more Annabelle stuff for the rest of the season. Like, nobody cares. You'd think that would stick with him a while.
I kind of want to punch Annabelle in the stomach. Is that weird?
You're such a monster.
I do. I just want to punch it.
I just
mean,
want to
it's
give her to a
just-
dog as like a dog toy.
Well,
Just-
no, it's just. I mean, it's just a little Raggedy Ann doll. Just punch it.
I don't know. That guy was making fun of the Annabelle doll in the museum, and then he wrecked on his motorcycle, so it had to be Annabelle.
I don't know. I want to punch it.
I don't know. So, in the DeFeo case, the paranormal, the devil made me do it plea absolutely did not work for this guy.
No, God, no. He is in jail.
Yeah, like, to the point that wasn't even convincing. They just said, yeah, he's just crazy. Like, not, maybe it's just he's crazy. But I still think it was a significant case to, like, talk about and bring up as far as relationship to the paranormal, just because there were so many. Like, you guys at home, if you have spare time, try to get past, like, the Amityville horror BS and go look up the DeFeo case and the Robert DeFeo Jr. murders. And only if you're into, like, true crime, not, if you're not, or you're not going to like what you're reading. But look at all the weird things that just don't add up about it. And it will kind of make you question the story a little bit, but to me, when I look at it, I don't think, oh, maybe there was a possession. I think, oh, maybe there was somebody else in on it and they're just not in jail and he stayed tight-lipped about it.
I think that's, honestly, I think that's the most likely.
Well, to me, yeah. From what I've seen, of course, I wasn't there. I'm not a professional forensicist, criminologist, anything like that. So,
but also, like, I mean, it goes to Harkham's razor.
Occam's razor?
Occam's razor. I don't know.
Harkham's razor?
You know what? Nobody likes you.
so
My bad. I said it wrong.
okay, so we have talked about the DeFeos because that's the first one. So let's talk about some that maybe our audience isn't familiar with. Because that's where everybody knows about DeFeo Amityville, or at least have heard of it. But what's one that you found that caught your eye the most? What was the most interesting out of what you found?
Well, if you don't mind going, in the way back machine, we can go to Alaska, Iowa in 1912.
The only thing that happens in Iowa
Murder.
is murder. Isn't that where Capote's from?
I don't know. I don't know about Capote's life. I just know he wrote a book.
In cold blood.
So we're going to go back to 1912 to the Alaska axe murders.
1912? How are you going to prove anything from 1912?
You can't.
Oh.
Like, nobody. So this is a still unsolved case.
Yeah, Valeska axe murders. I think I've heard.
Yeah, it was
about
on.
this one.
Yeah, it was on the Ghost show with the douchebag guy.
I may not have seen that, believe it or not.
I remember it, but I don't know. But so
Because I know that shows up on my feed, the Valeska Murder House.
Yeah.
Is like you can go there and ghost hunt.
Yeah,
and,
you just
and
yeah,
it's like a
it's
B&B or something, right?
Yeah, it's really quaint. It's kind of cute, but
Except for the murder.
especially because what? So in 1912, well, actually, we're gonna go back a little bit further. So in 1903, the Josiah Moore and his family bought the house in Alaska, where they lived until 1912, when they were all murdered. On June 10th, all members of the family plus two people who were visiting were found bludgeoned to death with an axe.
Bludgeoned with an axe?
They were bludgeoned to death with an axe. An axe isn't as cutty as you think it is.
I love this. This is the best.
They're not sharp. They're like a machete. You know how a machete isn't sharp.
Yeah.
No. So really, more likely, like, 'cause,
I actually do know this just from D&D, but I'm playing it up for
yeah. I mean, because like even going to the jazz murders in New Orleans, the Axeman.
Yeah, the Axeman.
Like actually, a lot of his victims survived.
She's just beating them with a blunt.
He's just beating him with a blunt axe. Yeah.
I like jazz. What are you doing? Why isn't this jazz?
What are you doing, man?
I'm totally lost. So okay.
Oh, we were talking about the New Orleans, the axe murderer that had a penchant for jazz.
So and
American Horror Story, Coven season.
Okay.
That was a real murder. Sorry.
right.
in which he was never caught.
No,
either.
no,
he was never caught either. So and like to back up, the Moore family was consisted of Josiah, Sarah, and their 4 children: Herman, Mary, Arthur, and Paul. And they had a couple of guests staying with them. I didn't write down their names or anything.
No one cares.
Yeah. And yeah, they were all well liked in society. So when they didn't emerge for a couple of days,
People went looking.
Yeah, people went
They
looking.
didn't have to wait for it to start to smell.
Yeah, people went looking and they found them all completely bloody, murdered, dead.
It's almost. I mean, it has some similarities to the from what you've said so far to
It almost
Lizzie
has-
Borden.
Yeah, almost. It's kind of like the Lizzie Borden case meets the DeFeo case, only they never found the murderer.
Okay, so they don't.
They never. There were some people that were suspected. There was one person in particular who was tried not once but twice, but acquitted. And yeah, like.
So how'd the devil make them do it if they weren't ever caught?
Oh no, I just thought it was interesting because it was never solved. And there's but the
Well, and I guess it's because there's a ton of paranormal stuff that happens at the house.
Yeah, like the paranormal doesn't happen until after. Like that's the interesting part to me. I don't know. I just thought it was a really interesting case. I didn't.
No, it's I like the older unsolved things like that. I'm wondering. I bet if I went back through my collection of Ghost Adventures, I'm pretty sure they bring a psychic in there to talk or whatever. And I'm curious what the theories are of who was responsible for.
Yeah,
these.
I can go back. I can actually look that
and
up.
I bet there's paranormal connections where they've brought like a psychic in or got like EVPs of somebody saying who did it.
But at the time, the case was so horrifying that it knocked the Titanic case off of the front page news. Which
Right, 1912.
So Titanic had sunk a couple of months prior to that, and it was so shocking at the time that it knocked it.
Well, we hadn't coined serial killers yet. We didn't have FBI, all that sort of thing, because Mindhunter comes after that. But so what was
The
it?
term serial killer wasn't even coined until the 80s, and it was by someone in London.
Yeah, what did the total kill count end up being? Like how many people died?
I think like 6, 8. Because there was the mother and father.
I thought she was gonna say like 60, and
Yes, 60 people. They are all dead because you had Josiah, Sarah, and then their 4 children, so that's 6, and plus, so it's 8. The kill count was 8 because they had 2 people staying the night, and that was very unfortunate for them.
That's quite a few people to kill with an axe without someone freaking retaliating and kicking your ass with your own axe.
Yeah,
Just saying.
and that is that is very weird because like nobody. I mean, of course, everybody was so far apart that nobody.
Well, okay, so
heard
this wasn't.
anything.
Where was this in Iowa? In
Iowa.
Iowa.
In Iowa,
Iowa.
and it's in Velasca, Iowa.
Okay. I knew that was the name of the house.
It's like in the bottom corner.
So is this the same place that James T. Kirk comes from?
Yes.
Okay. James T. Kirk is from Iowa.
I know he's from.
We all know that.
Do we? Do
God.
we all know that?
And Christopher Pike was the captain of the ship before. Oh my God.
Anyway, what kind of paranormal stuff happens at the house? Did you look any of that up?
Yeah, I am.
No.
Shut up
Doing
right
that
now.
right now.
I'm on that, Ashton. That is awesome.
No, so one thing that I found was in 2014.
So that's pretty recent.
Yeah, a man Robert Lorison Jr. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he injured himself. Like he stabbed himself in the chest during a visit there.
How do you do that?
I don't know, but Sarah, how do you rip off your toe with a shoelace?
Well, how did I rip off my toe halfway with a shoelace? It was dark.
But
so...
he did survive. But so like
So did I.
I accidentally stabbed him. 12 times.
So
Yeah, so
like,
he ran into my mouth.
but that was kind of just a matter of fact thing that was mentioned. So I just like was paranormal question mark.
I don't know. I know the place is open to ghost hunts, and I've through the grapevine heard that people get really good evidence there and things like that.
Yeah.
And if there were 6, and so all the murders happened at that house, like so that it's specific to that house. It's
house.
specific.
Happened in the house. Yeah.
So they know? Do they know it was an axe because of the type of wounds, or do they know it's an axe because they found the murder weapon?
I think it was because of the type of
The type of wounds. Okay,
Yeah.
so just some maniac somehow got away with this, and somehow it wasn't the person that like owned the house, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I've heard it's good paranormal hunting ground, but I didn't know anything about the background of the murders or anything like that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking up yourself. So you don't have to rely on my ass for it.
So were there?
So-
So did any ideas come up about like who was responsible for this or why or anything like that?
Yes. So I was actually looking through. There was an extensive list of people. So first you have Andrew Sawyer, who was a transient, and he was unaccounted for after the murders. He disappeared. He according to Thomas Dyer, Sawyer approached his crew at Creston about 6 a.m. in the morning of the murders. Sawyer was clean shaven, wearing a brown suit when he arrived. His shoes were covered in mud, and his pants were wet nearly to the knees. He asked for employment, and he was given a job. Dyer testified later that that evening when the crew reached Fontanelle, Iowa, Sawyer purchased a newspaper and went
Iowa.
Fontanelle.
Sorry. A soft spot on a baby's head. That's what it's a Fontanelle.
That sounds like Iowa to me.
Sounds like the soft spot. Yeah, he said.
I love that episode of Family Guy where Britney Spears
So
turns her
basically,
baby's head into the ashtray.
Sorry.
So he became fixated on the story, and that's what made him a suspect. But he also later disappeared that night. Reverend George Kelly. Oh, Reverend. Ooh. George Kelly. He was a traveling minister who happened to be in town at the time of the murders. He was described as peculiar, having suffered a mental breakdown as an adolescent. He was accused of peeping and several times asking young women and girls to pose nude for him.
Gross.
Well,
Yeah.
shit, I do that.
You're a
girls?
photographer. Yeah, not young girls, please.
Oh.
On June 8th, 1912, he came to Alaska to teach at the Children's Day services. So it sounds like he's a bit of a pedo.
He's a predator.
Yeah, he came to Alaska to teach
That
the
doesn't
Children's
make
Day
you a
services.
murderer. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Pretty
but
often they escalate.
Yeah, it's a jumping off point. Which the Moore family attended on June 10th, the day of that they were murdered. He left town between 5 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. on June 10th, 1912, hours before the bodies were discovered. He had confessed to the murders in court, but the jury didn't believe his confession.
That's always interesting when somebody confesses and they're like, "Nah, that's not the guy."
Well, I mean, also like he.
I mean, I know that happens, but
Yeah.
it's,
But,
it's
I mean,
just
I was
always
about to say,
weird when
hey-
you have no leads and then somebody's like, "Hey, I did this thing," and they're like, "Man, get out of here."
But also
Jeff."
back in the day, like, what are the odds that basically, like, you know, like, but you're a man of the cloth. You couldn't have possibly murdered everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, kind of the opposite of the devil did it.
Yeah, just get out of here, Hefe.
Yeah, it's like, but you're a man of the cloth.
Well, they had that pastor not too long ago that molested his daughter, and they let him off because he was a good Christian man. So this is a thing that still happens.
Yeah. In the weeks that followed, he displayed a fascination with the case, wrote many letters to the police, investigators, and family of the deceased, which sounds like your guy. 1914, 2 years after the murders, Kelly was arrested for sending obscene material through the mail. God, that's always been happening.
Was that the world's first dick pic?
Probably
No.
not, no. He was sent to St. Elizabeth's Hospital. It's a mental hospital in D.C. Investigators speculated again that Kelly could have been the murderer of the Moore family. In 1917, he was arrested for the Velasca murders. Police obtained a confession for him, however, followed many hours of interrogation, and he recanted, and he was acquitted again.
Interesting.
Yeah. Frank Fernando Jones. He was a Velasca resident and an Iowa state senator. Josiah Moore had worked for Frank, and
This is just conspiracy BS. Same with Jack the Ripper, where they're like, "Oh, it was the prince. Yeah, he had syphilis."
yeah.
Just coming up with whoever they can. What other? I know you looked up another case, didn't you?
Yeah. Hold on. Apparently, I don't know. Moore was rumored to have had an affair with his daughter-in-law, so I don't know if it's that far off.
Had an affair with your daughter-in-law, so you murdered 6 people.
Yeah, reported.
Were there any connections to were the victims connected in any way? Because the way you made it sound earlier is just like people that came to the house.
No, all of these people were connected in one way or another. I mean, it's a small town; everybody's connected. This, and I don't know. Frank Fernando Jones has a pretty good reason to murder them. He was taking his business away from his John Deere dealership because he had his own business as well. So, I mean, if you're drawing business away, why wouldn't he murder him and his entire family?
Demons. It was demons.
Yeah. And it goes on. God, he did not make... I mean, for a very popular guy, he also had a lot of enemies.
Well, being popular usually
Yeah.
does that.
Yeah, so...
It's pretty much the only thing it does.
So, of course, we have the Elisa Lam case, which a lot of people are very familiar with. Same with the DeFeo murders.
I actually don't know. Okay, so you brought up Lisa Lam before when we were talking, and I have no clue who you're talking about. Maybe I know it under another name or something like that.
No, you don't.
Okay, well, what was it?
So Elisa Lam came down in February of, I think it was 2013. She came down from Canada on vacation.
First off, Canadians don't murder people. That's not a thing that happens. They're way
Well, no.
too polite.
Well, no, she didn't murder anyone. She
got murdered.
She got.
Oh, who murders a Canadian? Oh, she came down with those stupid Tim Horton donuts.
Yes, that's what happened. Case solved. But no, Elisa Lam was the one that was found at the top of the Cecil Hotel in the water tank.
okay.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
she's the one they have the video of in the elevator.
Yes.
Acting all freaky.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this video was going around pretty publicly for a while. This girl gets on the elevator. She's like talking to herself. She looks freaked out. And then they find her in the water tank, which I'm curious how many people were drinking the dead body water.
A lot, and for several days because that's how they found her. So
They're like, this water tastes weird.
So she went. This
tastes like Canadian sparkling water.
So she was found on February 19th, 2013. She went missing earlier that month, and police had been looking for her earlier that month. Her parents, she kept in contact with her parents pretty regularly, and then earlier that month she just disappeared. So they contacted the LA police, and they came up and they investigated. They even investigated the roof where she was eventually found, and nothing. They found nothing. And
wait, I thought the water. From what I remember, the water tank was in the basement. Like she had gone up to the roof. It's on the roof. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's on the roof.
It's like a big, visible tank up there.
Yeah, and the videos are really weird too because they didn't see who she was running from or anything like that. She was just wigging
She's just
out.
skitzing on this elevator.
Yeah,
But in the videos leading up to that, everything's fine, and then on the next floor or whatever, she's skitzing, and then she's just gone.
Yeah, that was the very last night she was seen, and so later on, about a week or so later, the guests at the hotel were complaining that the water tasted bad, and the water was coming out black.
Dude, how, okay, so you're a person at this hotel. You drink some water, and then the next day you go and it's black, and you knew it was smelling funny yesterday, but you were like, I'm just going to drink it anyway. And you get this news. How do you feel about yourself after that?
I'm a cannibal.
Yeah, I pretty much just throw up daily.
Ew, and if her brain had rotted and brain matter had gotten in there, they could have gotten Creutzfeldt Jacob.
It's
if they could have gotten Kuru.
So if
all these people are going to start shaking uncontrollable in 50 years.
I was going to say, because, if she had to have this. I mean, if she disappeared earlier that month, and yeah, dude, the bloat was real. But she was found. So they went upstairs to check the water tanks, thinking that something had gotten. They
was
weren't
contaminated.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it was.
But like it's those. So the water tanks are. I wrote down the specs. Like they are. They're 4 by 8 feet, and they're sitting on top of concrete blocks, so they're pretty up there. It's you have to have a code to get to the roof.
Okay, so you got to
that only the employees have.
Right, you got to have a code to get onto the roof anyway. These water tanks
they're huge.
They're up.
And the door and the latch at the top is extremely heavy.
Okay.
Especially for a tiny little
Oh, so
woman.
obviously a dude put her in there.
Yeah. That's
A dude with a code.
A dude with a code.
See, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, but anyone could have gotten
You
the
know
code
how
from
heavy
work
a dead body is?
Yeah.
And-
Whatever
and-
they
and-
weighed.
and it's
Unless she wasn't dead when he
yet.
threw her in there, and
Well,
because her death was officially ruled as a drowning, she had no trauma. I mean,
so he pointed a gun at her head and said, "Get in the water tank."
yeah, pretty much. I mean, but she was nude, and all of her clothes were found in there. So what I'm thinking is like, if a guy did this, like he probably raped her and then threw her in there alive, and let her drown.
What was the guy not too long ago that put his kids and his wife in the oil tanker?
Oh yeah, that was. Oh god. Oh, that's a good one.
So what about the idea that she was just like tripping balls and decided I'm gonna jump in this water tank and go for a swim?
Well, because of the there's a lot of things that are unexplained. Like she couldn't have done it herself. She really couldn't have. But there is a theory that she could have taken the fire escape to get up there, which apparently like it's easy to get up there. Some people speculate it's pretty easy to get there up there via fire escape. I'm not sure if anyone's actually tried
I don't know.
it.
Daniel's bringing up the Ramirez link to the Cecil Hotel.
Oh yeah, yeah. He didn't murder anybody there.
He stayed there.
Yeah,
right?
he stayed there. That's where he stayed because I mean, the Cecil Hotel is in an area. It's in Skid Row, and that's where like a lot. There he wasn't the first serial.
Yeah, they
killer.
get like a lot of suicides there.
Yeah, and he wasn't the first murderer to stay there either. One man.
Maybe that place has just got some nutso energy or
It's
something
just.
like
I think
that.
it's also just a cheap hotel.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
because like it's in the middle. Like I said, it's in the middle of Skid Row. It's in an area of LA that people kind of stay away from. It's in that neighborhood, quote unquote.
So what are the paranormal aspects of this case other than just they can't figure out exactly what
A
happened?
lot of people
did somebody get like convicted of this, or is it still unsolved?
It's still completely unsolved. Like I mean, it's solved but unsolved.
I know a lot of people related it to the paranormal because of the video of her
Yeah,
freaking
because
out.
she very much looks like she's running from something, and some people speculate she's playing some weird hand game. I don't know I don't really know what it's called or really much about
What
it.
would I look up to find the video?
But just look up Elisa Lamb. That's all you have to do.
No, spell it. Elisa Lamb or Lisa?
Elisa.
Oh, Elisa Lamb.
No B.
Lamb, like on the lamb.
Yes.
All right.
Yep, there it is.
This one here.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, hold
Like,
on.
cause she looks like she's hiding from something.
Let me pause this real quick and go to bam. So I've brought this bad boy up here. Let's take a look at this. I want to hear the audio. I think there's some audio for it too. So this is her getting in the elevator. The Cecil Hotel. Oh, this is this is CBS News clip. Well, she doesn't look like she's wigging out here. So this is, I guess, on the first floor, or whatever floor she was on.
Just wait.
Okay, so she's all of a sudden looking out of the elevator. The doors aren't closing.
Yeah, see, and she's trying to hide.
Yeah, it looks like she's definitely hiding from somebody. Like she's got her back up against the thing. I'm narrating for people that would be listening to the audio. She keeps looking outside of the elevator. She's been in here a while. Like, shouldn't the doors have closed by now? Mm-hmm. So did she hit the hold button?
Don't know.
Nobody knows.
She hit a button, but I didn't see which
Okay,
one.
she's kind of creeping back out into the hallway, jumps out. It's almost like she's just jacking around.
Yeah, and a lot of people suspect that maybe she had not stop because she was also diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So a lot of people think maybe she was,
She's having an episode.
She's definitely acting paranoid, but so you'd think a paranoid, like if she was really hiding from somebody, she would have just like hid over in that corner.
See, and she's making like weird hand gestures at something in that corner, like you really can't see, but she's doing something, and some people suspect that she's maybe talking to someone, or in some cases something.
Yeah. No, I could get that too, because like the way people act, like when they're having
and she's like hitting all of the buttons.
Yeah, she's hitting all the buttons.
So this is what makes it so weird. I mean, this is the last video of her alive.
Right.
And she's just...
Oh, yeah, Zach says she was a paranoid schizophrenic and wasn't taking her meds.
Well, that right there, if that's known information, that 100% explains the video. Like,
it can also explain the strength it took to open that.
What is she... Okay, so she's like...
I wonder...
Swimming.
Yeah.
No, she's having like a conversation with somebody that's like not there. Not even like it's off camera. Like,
well, she's schizophrenic. She's probably talking to a hallucination.
Right. Yeah. She's talking to somebody that's like right in front of her, not like somebody off screen. But I can't tell if she's laughing or whatever, but she's doing like a lot of hand gestures and now she's just like chill. But it doesn't seem like a particularly scary conversation or anything like that. Oh man. Pause, bro. Jesus Christ. This dumbest thing ever. I'm glad it didn't go to Pornhub.
I find the Elisa Lam case really interesting just because it's like, what the hell, man? Like, what? How? Why?
So what did she do? Like, did she have any kind of enemies or anything like that?
I mean, she's also on vacation from Canada.
Yeah.
Very suspicious.
Well, no, I mean, if she had enemies, they'd be in
Why is she on vacation from Canada in Skid Row?
That's probably just where she was staying.
Yeah, that's probably where she was staying. I mean, it's one of the cheapest places.
I mean, when we went to San Francisco, we were vacationing, but we stayed at a nasty hotel across from a porn theater because it was cheap.
Oh, no, we weren't across from the porn theater. We were next door to the porn theater. There was a playground across from the porn theater.
Yeah. It was just... that's not like where our vacation was. That was just the cheapest hotel we could find on short notice.
I would totally vacation at the porn theater, but, that's just...
Until your genius friends decide they want to go walking on the town at night.
Dildo Wars were playing.
Next to the porn theater. And then they're surprised when people start following us around. Even though the third friend said maybe we shouldn't go out walking on this side of San Francisco.
But there are some strong points to like paranormal. I mean, obviously the chick had like mental problems, and it's very obvious from the video that she's probably having some kind of breakdown there. But what are the steps from that video to the roof where she doesn't have
to body in the water tank?
To body in the water tank somewhere where she doesn't.
Nobody knows.
But
that's the part that makes it so weird. Nobody knows.
Yeah, you were mentioning the fire escape. So has anybody tried that or proved that? Like she could have got off on another floor.
From what I understand, like I'm not sure if this man tried it or if he just looked at a picture of it. It was all like fire escape.
Oh yeah, just armchair forensics. Yeah, okay. Like we're doing right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But I mean, there could be some meat to that. She could have climbed up to who the fuck knows? She was hitting all of those buttons, and she was, like, out of her gourd.
Yeah, she could have went anywhere. Nobody was paying attention to her.
And if she was having a psychotic break, she pretty easily could have opened a heavy
thing. Who's to say she was having a psychotic break? What if she was hitting all of those buttons because the elevator wouldn't shut? Who's to say she wasn't talking to someone who's like, hey, why won't this elevator open? And she's like... But that doesn't explain why she was doing all the other stuff.
Like the hiding.
And it doesn't explain how she got found in the water tank.
Yeah.
After all those people drank her.
Gross.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Yeah, like...
You think that entire hotel absorbed her power after that? Oh, it's too soon, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Their power and, like I said, Kuru.
I don't know. I think somebody put her there. Especially because, like, she's very vulnerable in that state.
Yeah.
She's very
I can imagine how much that would suck. So, like, if you're schizophrenic and have problems with paranoia and then somebody's actually after you, you're actually having problems and you're telling everybody, hey, someone's after me.
They're like,
hey,
shut up, crazy pants.
They're like, are you on your meds? No, you got to listen to me. No, it doesn't matter. Nah, you're having an an episode or
You know,
whatever,
'cause-
and
How
then
long-
that person turns up dead.
Julie asked how long you have to be off your meds for symptoms like that to take over. The problem is if you're on a medication like that, especially in a high dose, the second you go off, you go into withdrawal, which can actually really exacerbate your symptoms.
Yeah.
It takes a good 6 weeks for these meds to be out of your system, but for the first 2 weeks, you're going to have severe withdrawal symptoms, which kind of cause lashback. So you're schizophrenic times 2 then.
Yeah, I don't know, and that's I don't know, that's a nuts one. So, is it ruled a homicide, or is it an open
Drowning.
case?
It's from what I understand, it was just ruled as a drowning. It was
Just
just
an
ruled as natural death.
That is
Not natural death, but like as a drowning, like
Accidental death.
that
Yeah,
is nuts.
accidental.
I would love to be able to look
Thank
through
you,
the actual case file, but
Yeah, from what I understand, it was not ruled a homicide. It was ruled
was
as a drowning.
okay. Well, here's the thing. So you have to open this big latch on the water thing, right? And they found her inside with her clothes inside. Was
When
it
the latch was
closed?
closed? Yeah, that's the thing that gets me. The
How,
latch was closed.
dude? There is some corrupt bullshit going on there. There's no way that's accidental. Whatever the events are leading up to that, that door is closed and latched. That can't happen.
You know what? I know how we saw this. We go to LA. We go to LA right now. We stay at the Cecil. We go
I'm
to
down.
the roof. Yes.
I will ghost hunt that place. I will
One
get
of
into
us-
contact with her and
one of
ask her who
us-
killed her.
One of us needs to get into the water.
Oh, I'm totally down. I'll
Yeah,
be in
I'll
the
do
water
it.
tower.
Well, all three of us can't do it. Then who's gonna let the other?
I don't know.
Brad's not a strong swimmer. He should not do it.
No, you shouldn't. You should not get in the water.
You're
tank.
vetoed.
It's gray water now anyway.
They cleaned it. They flushed
Dude,
it.
if
You think they could have cleaned it enough
if
that
we
anybody
go to the
stayed
Cecil
at
Hotel, yeah, I'm never drinking the water. out
bottled
the tap.
water? It's like, no, we hosed it down.
Dude, they bathed.
You hosed it down with that dirty woman water. That's what you did.
They bathed in it. They brushed their teeth with it. They drank it.
Nope.
I wonder what it tastes like.
Cannibal. I feel like during an episode she was hiding from something. Yeah, and I mean that's it's really like what the video footage kind of shows is she's obviously like paranoid that
Except
someone's
she pops
following-
back out of the
and
elevator,
then starts
which is
having a
not.
conversation.
If you've ever played hide and go seek, that's a bad method of hiding.
Yeah, she's got a bad strategy.
That's how
if
my
she's trying to hide.
that's how my son played hide and go seek when he was 3.
But you know what it looks like? Like she doesn't look scared in it, and she doesn't look like she's having a
Yeah,
break.
and see-
She looks like she's play hiding from
Yeah.
somebody, and then like popped out and started talking to him. So I wonder if she has like an imaginary friend she was like hiding from, and then. So here's a weird idea. Since we're paranormal investigators, right? What happens if you go to a location, say is haunted and has an intelligent being there or whatever, if you believe in that sort of thing, right? Okay, so let's say that's a thing we know,
Okay.
like that's not theory anymore. What happens if you take a schizophrenic person there that already has like an imaginary person, imaginary voice in them? Do you think that thing could assume that form and be able to communicate?
Oh, like mess with the schizophrenic.
Right, like so, like you know, we think children and animals have better sight for a thing like that.
So what is schizophrenic?
Are schizophrenics more tuned in?
Yeah, some people have postulated that.
Because they could just openly just accept it. Like they don't think, oh, it's a ghost. They just like, oh, this is my guide person. Like, could Danny Torrance really? He doesn't have the Shining. He's just schizophrenic. But then when he goes to the hotel that's got legitimate
Yeah,
activity
the
or
ghost
whatever,
turns into Tony and tells him to do stuff.
yeah. I mean, who's to say that that's not going on at this location? Other than the fact it's not
That
a
ghosts aren't real?
that it's not scientifically proven. But if you fall on that side of the
belief
spectrum of
yeah.
paranormal, that could absolutely be a thing where it's schizophrenia and mental illness is a bad combination with legit paranormal, because y'all said earlier that like other serial killers had been to this hotel and things. Ramirez, and you said somebody else too.
I'm gonna butcher his name. Jack.
Do you remember that episode of Teen Wolf where they go to the hotel where everybody kills himself? Is that based off the Cecil Hotel now, I wonder?
I think so. Jack Unterweger.
Unterbaker.
Yeah, Unterweger. Like, cause it's,
Untervega.
He's Australian, or not Australian, Austrian. God dang it. They're two different countries.
No, not really.
Austrian. Who is an Austrian sailor?
The toilet water goes the same direction in both countries. So
Does not.
it
goes backwards.
It's the David Borealis effect. It's right.
David Borealis.
That's what it's called.
No, that's not. None of this is correct. Everything we're saying is wrong.
It's the Cornholius effect. What is it?
I think that is actually right. I think it's like the Cornelius.
Coriolis effect,
Coriolis
guys.
effect.
Cornholius effect.
Coriolis.
David Cornholius effect.
The Coriolis effect is where water exits a drain one way in the northern hemisphere and another way in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, no, I eventually said
Marianne was
Coriolis.
asking what this podcast is about. It's supposed to be murders with a paranormal event, but apparently it's the Coriolis effect.
Cornhole.
David Borealis.
I hate you guys.
I knew it was the Coriolis effect.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Obviously, I did.
I don't
or
think
I
you
wouldn't be
did.
able to come up with so many wrong terms.
No, I think you're just an idiot.
God, I hate playing the idiot on this show. Next time it's you. Next time you're the idiot.
I don't think you're playing the idiot. What you mean is I hate being the idiot.
Oh, you're a horrible straight guy.
I'm not a straight guy?
Well, no,
In
he
the-
means like straight man, like in the comedy group. Like there's a straight man and there's a funny man. Like
Oh, I'm not funny.
Like funny haha or
oh my god. Now I hate you both.
I hate you too.
Well, we just take turns just hating each other now, won't we? But yes, Richard Ramirez and Chacunto.
Okay, so who's to say that, they didn't, before they died, they didn't like it there because and they're going back and they're possessing schizophrenic people or whatever and causing this whole thing.
Wasn't that the basis of an entire season of
Of
American
Horror
Horror
Story.
Well, maybe they had the same idea too, but
The let's not call him H.H. Holmes season.
it's so easy to look at that video and look at her history and go, okay, she was having like some kind of psychotic break or whatever, and it's real easy to theorize. Okay, she can't get past this one door, so she climbed up and she climbed into this thing, but the fucking door was closed. Like
it wouldn't.
Right up until that thing locks itself behind her.
yeah, there's just a very simple fact of someone has to do that. Now, shit. It just hit me what happened. I just cracked this
Did you
case.
solve this case?
I just solved the case.
One of the maintenance
bro.
guys was up there and he was like, "Hey,
saw
that's
it.
unlocked."
That shouldn't be open, and he like locked it the next day.
You didn't even think about looking in, man.
Dude,
What?
it's a guy that makes minimum wage.
That's fair. I wouldn't have looked in.
He's like, nah, man, it needs to close.
That's
You
racist.
racist.
What?
That's racist.
Because I said a German guy was the.
That was a Mexican.
That was
accent.
definitely a Mexican.
That's racist.
No,
Because
no.
you're stuck at accents.
Yeah, just because I'm bad at accent. That was my best German accent. It was a
Bad
German
at
guy.
accent. German accent.
My best German accent is Speedy Gonzales.
You guys earlier said that Austria and Australia were the same place.
No, I
No, I
did.
didn't.
Don't include her in this. She did
That's
nothing wrong.
racist.
Austria is next to Germany. Australia is.
I know. I got
another
the okay. So I'm gonna confuse one.
And that's why I was trying to say it was a German guy named Frank who, closed it behind the
no,
girl
you were
and locked her in.
clearly trying to.
Oh my God! What was your murder you were going to talk about?
Okay, I was talking about the. Hey, y'all read this first name for me real quick. Is it Arn or Arnie? I like to.
Is it a girl or a boy?
It's a boy.
Arnie.
I'm gonna go with Arnie, and then I am
I
immediately
mean,
going
go-
to go the
Gilbert
the
Grape.
teenage
Mama!
girl. Mama.
Mama!
I don't want to play hide and seek, Mama.
Mama! So Arnie Cheyenne Johnson. Okay, this was a trial, and it's actually the first precedent for basically a paranormal defense.
The
This-
devil made me do it.
Yeah, this it's the devil made me do it case. Like if you look it up, they wrote books about it, things like that. And this actually happened a year before I was born. So this is a 38-year-old case.
You say that's the first devil made you do it case, but Son of
No,
Sam
no,
was 79.
It's the first time it was tried. It's
Technically,
the
the
first
dog
precedent
made him do it.
that possession was used as a defense.
I get out of jail free card.
Yeah. They were trying to say, okay, I was possessed when this happened. I'm not guilty.
Okay.
It's the first time that was entered as the plea.
Okay.
The funny part about it is the judge was like, we ain't doing this shit, because it had like this big media circus around it, and he's like,
I kind of hope it happened exactly that way.
Hold on, it
did?
Yeah, pretty much. They were just like, no.
Oh, you copied everything.
Oh, okay. They were pretty much just like, no, try again. And so they were like, but that was our whole defense. And he's like, tough shit, figure it out. And they're like, can we deliberate? And he's like, no, come up with a real fucking plea. And they were like, self-defense.
Twinkies.
No, they switched from that to self-defense.
I would have gone with Twinkies.
They just like shot from the hip. So in 81 in Brookfield, Connecticut, Arnshine Johnson, he was convicted of first-degree manslaughter. So the whole murder thing got like downplayed to manslaughter after everything was done. He killed his landlord by stabbing him 37 times in the chest.
Oh, so he's llamas with hats? What'd you do? I stabbed him 37 times.
That's what it's. I think that's what it's based off. Stabbed him 37 times in the chest with a pocket knife.
I got the rumbly in my tummy.
And when I say pocket knife, I don't mean like the pocket
like
knives
a
you
Swiss Army
collect.
knife?
This is like one of those old timer, like ding 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 ding, like ice pick this motherfucker.
Carl,
And-
that's murder.
Yeah,
that kills
this happened in a
people.
laundromat. The paranormal part of it comes in. So his girlfriend at the time was is it Debbie? Is it Debbie? Please be Debbie.
Little Debbie?
Debbie.
Big Debbie.
She got all the snacks.
Mama Debbie.
Got them snacks.
She
yeah.
is a snack.
I can't say this last name. Gletzel. Okay.
Let me see.
So his
Let
girlfriend.
me mispronounce it.
It's Gletzel.
Where is it? Epiglottal?
It's in the second paragraph. It'll say David Gletzel. That's
yeah,
her
yeah.
little brother.
Glatzel.
Glatzel.
Glatzel. Okay.
I don't know. I'm just making stuff up now.
Anyway, so he was dating Debbie Glatzel. Debbie Glatzel's little brother, her and mother father had moved into a rent house. This was before David had met her, or just like slightly before, whatever. So they move into this rent house, and there's this big paranormal thing with it, where little David, he's like this. I think he's 11 years old. He's 11 years old. And the minute they walk in, the whole family starts having these weird experiences where they hear like footsteps around the house, someone in the attic, strange voices.
Your traditional haunting stuff.
Yeah. The kid, though, unbeknownst to the parents, walking in, sees an old man in the corner that's real mean to him, tells him get out, says if you don't get your family out, I'm going to kill your whole family, like threatens him. The kid's like really scared. He starts showing up with bruises, things like that. The dad gets accused of abuse.
I'll take hobo in the attic for 500, Alex.
Yeah.
We've had a hobo in the
Yeah,
attic.
that's a thing that happens.
Well, anyway, it's bad enough to the point that the dad gets accused of abuse, but a lot of this abuse is happening when the dad's not even home. And so they can't figure it out. Well, the kids move, and then Arnie enters the picture. He starts dating Debbie or whatever. Things escalate. The kids' mood changes. They talk to some psychologists at the time. They don't get anywhere with it. They talk to a priest. Priest is so worried. He tries like a house blessing, and that like aggravates everything. So what they end up doing is they end up just fucking moving out of the house at that point.
Kind of like the Lutzes.
Yeah.
Only real.
Bounce.
So they just totally bounce. They live somewhere else now. Arnie moves in with him, whatever. But the kid doesn't, and things stop. But the kid doesn't get any better. He gets worse. So what ends up happening is they end up calling the Warrens in. Warrens come in and say that the kid is possessed by, guess how many demons?
Legion, for they are many.
37.
Oh, God.
37. This kid's got 37 demons in it. They do 4 minor exorcisms on him. None of it's working, right? Arnie, according to the
Isn't they
accounts,
just Tetris in there?
I don't know. I keep thinking about.
I think they're
Clerks.
gelatinous.
37.
Like all it. What time?
Oh my God.
Thanks, Kevin Smith.
So the Warrens investigate. According to their accounts, the kid levitates. He talks in Latin. He starts having these premonitions of a murder of somebody getting stabbed like 37 times, and they come to the conclusion that there's 37 demons in the kid. Blah blah blah. They call in they try doing one or two exorcisms on their own, and then they call in the church to do some exorcisms too.
So how did they? Okay, so
Come to that number because they're full of shit.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I get it. It's like so
Because the person was stabbed 37 times. Oh, no, that was after the fact.
That happens later.
Damn
I'm
it.
not even to that part
Well,
yet.
no, I mean, so how do they assume, like, this kid says, like, someone's going to get stabbed, like, 37 times. So how do they assume that this kid has 37 demons because of that?
I don't know that those two things, and I don't know that the kid said that somebody got stabbed 37 times. But
It's like once per demon,
but-
and demons aren't polite.
according to the Warren, consider the source material here.
I mean, that's
According to
true.
the Warrens, he had premonitions of a murder where somebody's stabbed, which ends up happening later in the story. He has premonitions of other things. He's like clairvoyant or whatever. So he fits all these factors for what is supposed to be demonic possession. They say it's 37 demons. They try 2 exorcisms on their own. It doesn't work. They try 2 exorcisms with the church. It's not working. According to accounts, Arnie doesn't believe in this crap. He's like, he's like, I'll do an exorcism. Let me take off my belt. He's thinking that. Anyway, nothing's working.
Which
he's
sounds
trying.
about right for the day.
Well, he's trying to date the sister through this whole wacky BS going on or whatever. So anyway, he's taking part in like one of these exorcisms, and he dares the demon. He says, "Get out of the kid, take me, whatever, biatch." Right? And at that point, the kid's done. Like the supposedly the next day, the kid isn't possessed anymore. Everything was better, but Mama Warren, I can't remember her first name now. Lorraine warns everybody. She's like, "Hey, the demon didn't go. It went into Arnie." And supposedly she warns everybody. She's like, something bad's gonna happen. It's gonna get worse, and it's in Arnie now. It's not in the kid.
So this is their broken clock moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And so supposedly things were kind of fine with the family after that, but Arnie's temperament changed. He started drinking more. He started having mood swings. Him and Debbie had moved out into an apartment on their own or whatever. And he'd like growl like an animal and not remember doing it, and just like all these weird things that kind of signify that the demon went into him and they knew about it or whatever. And on this one occasion, he called into work to, I guess, spend time with Debbie and I think maybe her cousins or something like that. But and their landlord, like they were friends with their landlord, and they went up to the I said laundromat earlier. It was the kennel. His girlfriend worked at the kennel. So they were up there hanging out, drinking or whatever.
Nothing happened to the puppies.
Oh, no.
Oh. Keep going, Brad.
What?
Anyway, so
He also murdered 37 puppies.
there were 37 dogs in the room that day. And the strange thing is they were all hot dogs.
And they each barked 37 times, which is super strange because hot dogs don't bark.
Dude, if the hot dogs are parking, you need to change
So
your
anyway,
LSD.
they were all hanging out there. They were having a good time or whatever. And then he had called into work or whatever, and he'd been drinking with the landlord, and he was being like a dick or something. I don't know, but the kids wanted to eat, so Debbie took the kids to go eat real quick and was trying to get back because she's like, oh, this is going to escalate what's going on. Like, it was some kind of bad situation. And I'm thinking this dude was just an alcoholic in my head or what, or something was going on. Oh, this guy's alive, by the way, and out. So if he's listening to this show, we're in Pennsylvania. North Pennsylvania.
Yes,
Paranormal.
I definitely have a Pennsylvania accent.
Accent.
Fuck all you guys.
Anyway, so he's like hanging there with the landlord. They come back or whatever, and for whatever reason, like the landlord doesn't want her to leave or something like that, and goes to like grab her, and he's like, let her go, and like won't, and pulls out a pocket knife and stabs this dude like 37 times, and he dies later. He bleeds out, and gets arrested, right? And everybody's like, what the hell is going on? Well, while he's sitting in jail, before he says anything about anything being interrogated, all that stuff, Lorraine Warren shows up and says he's possessed by demons. Like, on his behalf, says
Worst defense ever, by the way. Do not use
well,
this
and
defense.
and brings this lawyer with her who's been just like itching to use this, because by the way, this is the first precedent in America. 2 times before, this particular lawyer had used the paranormal defense in Europe to no great avail. I don't know why I was just practicing law.
This lawyer's a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
Was it ghosts? Was it ghosts? Was it demons? Let's say it's
But it was
demons.
ghosts, yeah.
Let's see. What was her name again? I got better notes here. Hold on.
Hey, was it ghosts? But it was ghosts.
If you say so, it was ghosts.
Oh, Martin Minella. So Martin Minella was this attorney that was basically given to him by the Warrens, and that they were kind of snowballing the story. Like, they already had book deals lined up. They already had like the CBS made-for-TV movie lined up, and Martin Minella comes in and is like, oh, I'm sorry, I kept saying 37. It's 42.
That's less fun.
Yeah, the significant number is 42. The guy that
That ruins all our jokes. You should have lied.
oh man,
37.
I don't know what you are talking about. Anyway, Martin Minella cited 2 British court cases that had permitted a defense based on possession by demon. So they go in, and with all this evidence and testimony from the Warrens and all that, they're like, he was possessed by a demon. And then the judge, Robert Callahan, said, nah. He said there's no...
I love that judge, by the way.
He cited, stating such assertions could not be scientifically or objectively proven by any evidence.
Julie was saying, she was asking I'm assuming the lawyer was related to the Warrens.
Not related, but they were working together or whatever. So the judge said, no. What do you want to do? And they're like, we got to deliberate. Like, that was our thing. That was our whole shtick. And they're like, well, you got like 5 minutes. Like, tell me now, innocent, guilty. And they're like, we're still going with innocent, and we're going with self-defense. And as soon as that happened, like, all the media on the whole thing just completely dried up, because they weren't going to go with demon, she's a weeman thing, and just no support after that, and ended up serving 10 years of a 20-year sentence for manslaughter, because apparently he was defending Debbie or whatever. But the interesting thing is after all that happened, after he's out or whatever, Debbie and Arnie got married. They're married now, and they live somewhere.
Gosh. Now this turned into a whole different movie in my head. On air.
Well, they live together, and he still asserts that I was possessed by a demon when I did this. Like, he still maintains that. But the Glatzels, is that what you all told me?
Whatever, Glatzel.
The Glatzels are in the process of trying to sue the Warren estate for defamation, because they said that's not what happened at all. All that crap, the Warrens specifically came in and said, hey, we need to say all this stuff because we'll all be millionaires. Let's see. Once the defense was barred, tension evaporated, phony story to get rich at their expense. They had some really specific claims about the Warrens, and it's the first time I've heard them called out specifically. Normally it's the kind of what we were talking about, like, were they ignorant to
They're
it?
adjacent.
Are they just adjacent to all this bullcrap? The incident led to the creation of a made-for-TV movie called The Demon Murder Case on NBC, and a major motion picture, the production of which stalled due to internal conflicts. In '83, Gerald Brittle, with the assistance of Lorraine Warren, published a book about the incident entitled The Devil in Connecticut. I need to get that book and read it. I'm curious now. Lorraine Warren has stated that the profits from the book were shared with the family. So people looked into that. They got $2,000 out of all that, right? So after all this, upon the books, it got republished recently, I guess, after Arnie got out of prison or whatever. I guess it kind of, sparked some interest. So upon the book's republication in 2006 by iUniverse, David Glatzel and his brother, David Glatzel, that's the kid that supposedly got possessed, and his brother Carl Glatzel Jr. sued the authors and book publishers for violating their right to privacy, libel, and intentional conflict of emotional distress. Carl also claimed that the book alleged he committed criminal and abusive acts against his family and others. He said that the possession story was a hoax concocted by Ed and Lorraine Warren to exploit the family and his brother's mental illness, and that the book presented him as the villain because he did not believe in the supernatural claims. He asserted that the Warrens told him the story would make the family millionaires and would help Johnson out of jail. According to Carl Glatzel, the publicity generated by the incident forced him to drop out of school and lose friends. So it ruined this kid's life. So basically what David, the one who was supposedly possessed, is saying is when he was a little kid and the Johnson thing was blowing up, the Warrens came to him and told him the story and said, hey, say this is what's gonna get him out of jail and it's gonna make your family rich. Yeah, they manipulated a kid.
Yeah, which is easy because kids just want to help adult. He's probably wanting to do whatever he can do to help.
Well, let's put it this way. Andrew and Caitlin are pretty close to that age on either side of it. And let's say Steven was in some kind of legal trouble or something like that.
Just for anyone watching who doesn't know.
Yeah, and
they're 8 and 13.
And say you guys really needed the money or whatever, and these people say, well, if you just tell this story, everything's better. They're gonna do it.
I'm pretty positive the girl child would lie under oath.
Absolutely.
Both of them would lie under oath. If Steven went to jail for something, he wouldn't because he's too lazy for murder. But both of my kids would definitely perjure themselves to get him out of jail. If he ever goes to jail, we're going to have to delete this.
Because turns out...
I could cut to a commercial. I still haven't cut to our commercial yet. You want me to cut to a commercial break?
We got a commercial?
Yeah, do you want a commercial?
We don't have time. I want to sing.
So what were we just talking about during the...
Moira.
We were going to talk about the suicides at the Cecil and what we think of...
Oh, there's more than that one thing at the Cecil?
There's been 6 suicides at the Cecil and at least 2 suspected murders.
Holy fuck, why did I go on my whole tangent about Arnie?
And we were going to talk about what we think about the Devil Made Me Do It or paranormal defenses.
Yeah, so, is that how you... Yeah, we can talk about that first. We can talk about that.
Let's see, do we have any questions up here?
I was telling Zach about that time that Steven convinced me. Me and Steven had only been dating for a couple weeks, and I was up in his bedroom and we were just talking, and he had told me this story that was very believable because Steven is an excellent liar.
Oh, yeah, he's pretty good.
And he straight up convinced me that he was a serial killer to the point where when he went to go take his brothers to school, I tried to climb out the window. And when he got back, he said... I almost sent Jonathan up to knock on the door with a bunch of trash bags or to knock on the door and be like, help, Steven's a serial killer. But no, he's such a good liar.
I like that you're married to this man.
I had a leg out the window. And my best defense was to convince him I was into it. I was like, just agree. Pretend it's natural born killers.
Well, no, that's a real defense, though. That's how,
that's how girls escape from serial killers.
Yeah, that's how, that's one of the most common things between, women who survive serial murderers or serial rapists, is they just go along with it.
Yeah.
And then...
But yeah, my instinct, I was like, make out with him and tell him you're down with murdering. But when he left to take the boys to school, I was like, climb out the window.
On the newest season of Mindhunter, who is the killer that they're talking to, that they're interviewing, who he was supposed to be the guy's victim?
Oh,
and,
that
and,
is
and what he
Elmer
ended
Wayne
up,
Henley.
yeah, and he started recruiting
Yeah.
dudes for this guy to kill.
Yeah, there was
to
two
basically
of them.
save himself.
There was two of them. Dean Coral was a serial killer in the Houston area. If you ever get a chance,
Why is it always Houston? Houston's got enough problems right now.
if you ever get a chance, read The Man with the Candy. That's
Oh, yeah, he's
really
a
good-
candy man.
Yeah, he's a candy man. Well, only because he had a only because
Candyman.
like he worked his mother owned a praline factory.
Candy man.
You know what?
Candy man.
Candyman.
Candy man.
You know what? Fuck you guys.
Candy
There's no beer in here. What's interesting is Dahmer worked at a chocolate factory. What is it with killers and
Menial jobs.
confectionery?
Well, it's a menial job.
You know, shut up. You're wrecking it.
I am.
Serial killers make candy.
They do. They do. But yeah.
Willy Wonka.
Oh, he was obviously a serial killer. None of those kids survived that factory.
Think about it.
Just the one.
But did he?
Yeah, I know he blasted off into space, hit the stratosphere, and exploded.
But Dean Coral had two accomplices. He had Elmer Wayne Henley and the other one I can't.
Yeah, Henley's the only one I remember. But yeah, basically he had
Don
taken.
Henley?
It's because he's the only one that will talk.
He had taken them
The
to.
drummer from the Eagles?
Yes, he had taken them to murder them, and these smooth talking kids were like, "How about we just join you? How about we join you instead?"
David Owen Brooks. That was the other one.
Yeah.
And so,
David Brooks won't talk, but
so he unstrapped them from the murder rape table
yes.
and let them commence with the murder raping.
That's the best way to survive rape.
Well, actually, David.
Yeah.
Well,
It's because since it's about power. I'm sorry. I know very little, so when I know something, I feel like I need
Oh
to.
no, it's
need
fine.
to
But
say it.
David Brooks actually was approached by Dean Coral at a party that Dean Coral would throw for the younger guys because apparently that wasn't weird, and so he
It's like the movie Mama.
yeah. But basically, Dean Coral he started out by saying like, "Hey, if you let me suck your dick, I'll pay you," and being at that age, he's like, yeah, you're going to pay me, So, yeah. And
How
then,
very Basketball Diaries.
I know, right? So, and then from there, it escalated to like, hey, bring these boys to these parties.
Well,
And then,
yeah,
hey,
and his big
yeah.
defense was like, "Oh, I didn't know he was going to kill him. I thought he was just going to rape him."
Yeah, that's what, well, because like.
Well, I guess that is a lesser
Yeah, because it started with David Brooks. Like he basically he would tell him like, "Oh, I'm selling them to a sex ring."
Yeah.
Like that would be better. And then finally he's like, "Oh no, now I'm just murdering him."
Yeah, he was helping him kill him.
And honestly, like a lot of people think that they weren't even the first accomplices. He probably killed the other two.
Yeah, probably.
He went through a string of them, most likely.
probably because
He was upgrading.
Yeah, because like the initial thought like. They really don't. The official death toll is 27, but they suspect more.
Well, and a lot of times with pedophiles, they'll grow out of that age range they're attracted to. Like, they're hebophiles, or they're specifically attracted to. Like, a lot of times they'll be attracted to
12-year-olds, prepubescent.
prepubescent boys. So occasionally they'll kill a little girl because there's not that much difference between a prepubescent boy and a little girl.
Yeah, he was definitely interested in teenage boys.
But yeah, the kid will grow out of those teenage years, and then he has no use for him anymore. So he murders him and moves on to a new younger model.
Yeah.
He.
So what about these suicides at the Cecil?
Oh yeah, hold on.
I got us off track. I figured it
I
only
know,
fitting
I
me
had
to
that.
get us back
I
on
get
track.
I get excited about Dean Coral because he's
Man, that is the best soundbite ever.
I get excited by Dean Coral.
Hey, serial killings are awesome, and we should do more
Well, he's
research.
an interesting case because A, he had accomplices, and B, one of his accomplices killed him before he could be caught.
Yeah, that's the other part of his
Yeah.
story. Fuck
Dean-
you, bro.
I think the accomplice found out he was about to be dumped.
No, that's one of them. Actually, Dean Coral, I think everybody was planning on bailing because at the time David Owen Brooks knocked up his girlfriend and skipped town, and then Elmer Wayne Henley tried and failed to go to the Navy, and Dean Coral was trying to move to Colorado. And so I think they were all trying to bail on each other, and I think each one of them were afraid that the other would rat. And Dean Coral had one last thing with with Elmer Wayne Henley, and Elmer Wayne Henley made the almost fatal mistake of bringing his girlfriend, which, by the way, was the fiance of one of his victims. Anyway.
That is a clusterfuck of a story.
That is. Oh, God, I love this case. But anyway, so...
We just need a true crime podcast now.
So anyway, he goes in there, and, like, Dean Corll's pissed off because he brought a girl. And they start huffing paint, and, of course, they all pass out. And that's when, Elmer Wayne Henley finds himself naked and strapped to the torch board. Sweet talks his...
That's how you know the party was lit.
You get strapped to the torture board?
So then he somehow convinces Dean Corll to let him go.
Again.
And he says, like, hey, you know what? And he says that he would kill his girlfriend. And, and Dean Corll was okay with that. And then, one thing led to another, and he just pointed the gun at Dean Corll instead of his girlfriend and
Capped
shot
him.
him.
Ass.
Yeah, capped him. And Dean Corll, by the way, was stark-ass naked.
So this hotel keeps killing people.
So
back to Murder Hotel.
And back to Murder Hotel.
AHS Hotel.
So there was at least 6 suicides.
Which is also combined with the H.H. Holmes Hotel.
Huh?
The AHS season of Hotel.
Oh, okay. I actually have not watched that.
Oh my God.
I
H.H.
know.
Holmes and vampires.
I know.
Lady Gaga is a vampire.
And serial killers, yeah. You would
I
have a
can't-
total
yeah.
boner for that season.
They have the whole thing where all the serial killers are just hanging out.
I know.
Oh my God.
I can't. We're ending the podcast.
I'm
a little
disappointed
bit
in
early.
Allie as a human.
Anyway.
Suicide Hotel.
Suicide Hotel. So I pulled up the timeline of suicide. So there's been at least 6, and then of course 2 suspected murders.
Is this all since the murder, or is this over an
This
entire
is over This is over the entire
Timeline of the
timeline
Cecil.
of the Cecil.
I want to investigate
The
this.
Cecil opened in 1927.
Good God. Okay.
And
So it's like a historical
Yes, it
landmark,
is.
even though
It
it's
is.
like a skis fest.
Yes, it is. On November 19th, 1931, Manhattan Beach resident W.K. Norton, 46, was found dead in his room after ingesting poison caplets. A week prior, Norton had checked into the Cecil under the name James Willis from Chicago. Norton's death appears to be the earliest known suicide at the hotel. So we're talking 4 years later?
Yeah.
September 1932, so not even a full year later, a maid found Benjamin Dodick, 25, dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. In late 1934, former Army Medical Corps Sergeant Louis D. Borden, 53, was found dead in his room at the Cecil. He had slashed his own throat. He left several notes, one of which cited poor health. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Go ahead.
In March 1937, Grace E. Magro fell from a 9th-story window. Her fall was broken by telephone wires, which wrapped around her body. She later died at the now-demolished Georgia Street Receiving Hospital. Police were unable to determine whether Margot's death was a result of an accident or suicide. In January 1938, Marine fireman Roy Thompson, 35, jumped from the Cecil's top floor and was found on the skylight of a neighboring building. He had been staying at the Cecil for several weeks. May 1939, Navy officer Irwin C. Neblett, 39, was found dead in his room after ingesting poison. January 1940, teacher Dorothy Shagger, 45, ingested poison while staying at the Cecil. That's 3 poisons, yeah.
Man, that's a weird way to commit suicide. Like, I understand ODing on pills or whatever because you think it's
People
gonna be
drink
easy.
Drano pretty frequently to kill themselves.
Really? That seems like it'd be a really painful way.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is.
It burns your
Yeah.
inside. And they can't,
You would die from bleeding, not poisoning.
Normally, they'd use activated charcoal, right? That's what they put in your stomach that absorbs materials that shouldn't be in there.
Mm-hmm.
However, it also frequently induces vomiting. So you can't use stuff like that with Drano because they throw it back up. They double burn their esophagus and die faster.
Oh my God.
Gross.
Yeah, that's terrible.
1944.
That's for people that are serious about it, not cry
Let's
for
say,
help.
don't
'cause-
dump water on someone who has powdered chlorine on them. Learn that on an ambulance. And don't give someone who's drank Drano activated charcoal.
It's weird that we have to give these specific instructions for, okay, you ride around in this wagon to go help people. These are the two things you can't do because people do this to themselves.
Don't accidentally spray nitro on yourself. It will give you a headache. That's another one.
Yeah. In
among other things.
September 1944, Dorothy Jean Purcell, 19, was sharing a room at the Cecil with a shoe salesman, Belle Levine, 38. Purcell, who had apparently been unaware that she was pregnant, went into labor.
That's a hell of an episode if I didn't know I was pregnant.
I know, right? Purcell later testified that she did not want to disrupt sleeping Levine, so she went to the bathroom where she gave birth to a baby boy. Thinking the boy was dead, Purcell threw him out of the window where he landed on the roof of an adjacent
As you
building.
tend to do.
Jesus.
Why not supposed to be laughing?
He's freaking awful.
Who just like...
All I can think about is the bounce. That's why is... I'm horrible.
I was thinking kick the baby.
Y'all are both going to hell.
Well, from South Park.
I know what it's from.
I'm fucking dying.
Purcell was charged with...
The dude's sitting in the car.
It's just baby bounces off the hood. Oh my god.
Get it together, man.
It's raining babies.
You're hurting my ears.
Three psychiatrists, then known as alienists, testified that Purcell was mentally confused at the time of the incident. In January of 1945, she was found not guilty by a reason of insanity. In November 1947, Robert Smith... God dang, baby.
The baby lived, and then he went back and killed himself at the...
Yes. 1947, Robert Smith, 35, died after jumping from one of Cecil's 7th floor windows. October 22nd, 1954, San Francisco stationery firm employee Helen Gurney, 55, jumped from the window of her 7th floor room and landed on top of Cecil's marquee. Ugh. 1 week prior, she had registered at the hotel under the name Margaret Brown. 1962, Julia... what are you doing, man?
Don't worry about it.
Oh, don't worry about it, dude. Julia Frances Moore, 50, jumped from the window of her 8th floor room and landed in a 2nd-story interior light well. She did not leave a suicide note. Among her possessions were bus tickets from St. Louis, 59 cents in change, and an Illinois bank account showing a balance of $1,800, which that's a lot. October 12, 1962, Pauline Otten jumped from the window in the 9th floor room after an argument with her estranged husband, Dewey.
That one's a wash. That's not Demon Hotel. I married someone named Dewey.
Dewey left the room prior to Autumn's suicide. Autumn landed on a pedestrian.
I'd be incapable of introducing anyone to my husband without going Dewey, like the decimal system. Every time.
She landed on a pedestrian, George Gianni, 65, killing them both instantly.
It was a 2 for
1.
Jeez. And given that no one had, initially, there were no witnesses, police originally thought Otten and Gianni committed suicide together. That sucks. June 4th, 1964, a hotel worker...
I just imagine getting to heaven. How'd you die? Someone fell on me. I was just walking, and someone fell on me.
That is really unfortunate.
And that person's like in line behind him.
And they're like, do-do-do. I don't know what you're talking
Man,
about.
that sounds awful. Who would do that?
That is so unfortunate. That poor guy. He was just trying to live his life. On June 4th, 1960...
You don't know. He could have been really sad. He was probably thinking about it. He was like, I should just kill myself. I hate my job. BAM!
June 4th, 1964, a hotel worker discovered Pigeon Goldie Osgood, a retired telephone operator, dead in her
These
room.
aren't real people. These aren't real stories. You're fucking with us.
No, I'm not.
Pigeon Goldie Osgood here.
Well, this is about to get real depressing. She had found dead in her room. She had been raped, stabbed, and beaten, and her room was ransacked. Yeah, so that's a moida.
Yeah, ruining the party.
December 20th, 1975, a still unidentified woman jumped from her 12th floor window onto the Cecil's 2nd floor roof.
And then we got the lamb.
Yeah, February 19th, 2013. The naked body of Elisa Lamb, 21 Canadian student, was found inside the water supply tank at the hotel roof. The Lamb had gone missing almost 3 weeks earlier.
Ugh.
On January 31st, 2013, her decomposing body was discovered by a maintenance worker on the rooftop tanks after guests complained about low water pressure in the water that tasted funny.
You think it was the same maintenance worker that shut that when he was walking up there? He was like, this lid shouldn't be open.
Yes. On June 13th, 2015, the body of a 28-year-old male was found outside the hotel. Some conjectured that he may have committed suicide by jumping from the hotel, though a spokesman from the county coroner informed Los Angeles Times that the cause of death had not been determined. Thus, it would appear that at least 16 deaths at the Cecil resulting from non-natural causes, either as a result of suicide, accident, or murder.
That's nuts. I wonder. I don't really subscribe to stuff like that, but that's a lot of deaths. Now,
Hotels it's a really common place for people to commit suicide, and one that old.
And also,
it's going to have a lot of stories. I mean,
yeah, and also not her, though her body was never found at the hotel. Elizabeth Short, a murder victim dubbed by the media
the
as
Black
the Black
Dahlia.
one of Los Angeles' best-known unsolved murders. She had recently been seen at the Cecil's bar just days before her murder.
I knew she was linked. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a special recently. They think they might have solved her murder recently. They think she might have been getting a under-the-table abortion and might have died on the table. So
like American Horror Story?
Is that part of the American Horror Story?
Yeah,
That's in the murder house.
Yeah, she goes to get an abortion.
Oh.
Yeah. That's in the...
I've completely wiped that from my head, but they think they know the doctor that might have done it, and she might have died on the she might have died on the table or whatever. So he was trying to get rid of the corpse or whatever, because he was well known for doing a lot of like under the table abortions.
Well, final thoughts.
Dude, that hotel is nuts. Like, if
You want to go?
it's got to be fucking
Yes.
haunted. No, it might kill you.
I want to go.
Apparently, it makes people commit suicide. No, so why do people commit suicides at hotels so often? Is it just because it's a neutral location?
So no one has to clean up the mess, so a family member doesn't find them.
No one they care about.
Well, so a family
needs.
member doesn't find them.
Okay.
Generally, a lot of the time, especially at cheap hotels, it's somewhere they can just go and.
Yeah, because you actually know someone who committed a suicide at a hotel.
Yes, in Cleburne, they went and stayed at the hotel, and I don't know exactly why they did it, because, of course, I couldn't exactly interview the guy. He was splattered all over the La Quinta. But,
I mean, we could go back. We know how to do that now.
But,
Post-suicide
I know
interviews.
talking to his family members, they think he did it because they were at the house, and he wouldn't have had any time alone. So it's also a place where they can go to be alone.
Yeah, and uninterrupted or whatever, and you're sure not to get found.
Yeah.
Like in the process and saved by accident.
Yeah, and I think maybe a part of it, the psychology of it is like, I mean, at home you're surrounded by reasons why you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, they're escaping all logical reasons.
Unless
to
they're
stay
escaping
alive.
that life, then you are surrounded by plenty of reasons to do it. But anyway,
I always like that story about the dude. He wanted to he hated his life. He wanted to kill himself, so he withdrew all his money from the bank account, and he went down to Mexico, and he just took every barbiturate he possibly could, trying to kill himself, and banged like 30 whores all at the same time. Woke up the next day and decided, man, I have a reason to live.
We support sex workers on the show, just saying.
Yeah.
Whores, Jesus, Brad.
Oh, it was awesome though. But he was just like, that was the best night of my goddamn life. Came back, went back to his job. Amazingly, didn't have any STDs, and yeah, he's just happy. Like apparently, he's the only person to ever cure his depression.
My final
Good for
thought
him.
is that The Devil Made Me Do It is either the best defense or the worst defense.
Well, okay, so I couldn't find any instances where nobody's got off because of it. Nobody's got lesser sentences.
But you might be the one.
it doesn't work. It doesn't really help an insanity plea. Like we were talking about. Did we talk about David Berkowitz on the show, or was that just before?
We talked
No,
about
we
it
talked
a
about it a
little.
little bit before.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
during,
yeah.
I mentioned this in the Sam like 3 times.
Okay. But yeah, I couldn't find any instances where it helped
No.
at all, or that the judge even like allowed it as part of the thing. Like it may have been like the focus of the case, but they wouldn't allow it as any kind of like plea. And I really loved that one judge's just response,
No.
like, no,
Like, no. No. Mm-mm.
nah, try again.
That's like, I can imagine that's what would happen if someone walked in a Texas court. Be like, nah, bruh. You know? Just,
I don't know. I don't know. It's nuts. Like, do I think people commit murders unknowingly? Like, do they have like dissociative
Well,
disorders?
people have committed murders
or
while
asleep.
experiencing night terrors or sleepwalking.
Yeah, and done it completely accidental. Like
or
they've
what was
proven
that
it's a
one
thing.
guy who it was when Chantix came out? That one
Oh
guy?
yeah, Chantix shot. He shot a cop through the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of instances where people could be telling the truth where like they don't know that they committed a brutal murder. And like, so if you believe in the idea that like another being or whatever can take over your body, you know, yeah, I guess there's a possibility there, but I haven't seen any evidence that that's a thing, because we were talking about it earlier, Sarah. We're constantly warned about going into places. This is a thing that could happen.
Oh yeah.
And it just never happens. We never feel influenced or like, oh, this thing makes me angry,
No.
or we don't experience like those oppression or something following us. Like we definitely have like our paranormal experiences or whatever, but
We also experience anxiety that might cause anger or depression.
Yeah,
but
so-
it's never the ghost did it. It's my anxiety about the place did
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I think that's the point I was getting to, is like, you know, like we were just watching the show earlier before the podcast, and he's like, oh, the spirit entered me and now I want to like crush your head. It's like, no, those are just the feelings I get when I have anxiety. Like I don't even have to be in a haunted place to
I don't know,
have those kind of thoughts.
You know, not exactly controversial opinion. I think those are just the thoughts Zach Baggins has on a regular basis, and he chooses those moments to say that,
Yeah,
to release it. You know.
I agree. I don't know. So far I haven't seen any paranormal crime cases where I'm like, yeah, there was definitely, I mean, there's definitely stuff that doesn't line up, but I still see logic in all of them. I haven't seen a good one that makes me think, oh, there was definitely something. Like even the we were talking about the Day at Love Pass case, where, you know, they cut their way out of the tent, and they were like all found naked in the freezing cold, and it looked like there were no signs of a struggle. They were just all dead. And there was really no reason for them to leave where they were. Like they were safe, and like nobody could figure it out. And I think somebody postulated the theory that maybe their shit caught on fire and it got smoky inside and they couldn't see their way out. Or what. Like I always think there's some kind of logic to it, but I don't. The most interesting one is the Lamb case that you brought up. Is, you know, I can go along with pretty much any theory all the way up to the roof, even her putting herself inside the tank. But why is that thing closed and locked? And the only thing I think of is if it really was an accident and she was really just nuts, is like you said, the maintenance guy going up there. Because who's going to admit that 3 weeks later when they find the body up there and they're like, well, nobody's been up there for 3 weeks. That dude's going to be like, yeah, I definitely haven't been up there at all.
Also, people's memory, changes.
Oh, I would remember that. As soon as they found a dead body in there, I'd immediately, even if I had forgot, I'd be like, oh shit, I was not up there. I was not up there. I never went up there. No.
Yeah, and I guess, and I'm
afraid
just,
of heights.
And I'm just going to assume there's no cameras by the doors. There should be now, I would hope, but
I'm sure if there was a recording, it came up missing.
Yeah, but it's not even called the Cecil Hotel anymore.
Oh no, what is it called?
I forgot.
That's a weird name for a hotel.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on it, Sarah?
Well, I already said it's either the best defense or the worst defense.
That's your only
Yeah.
thought?
There's no way to prove any of that.
Yeah, there's yeah.
It's like saying your house is haunted. You can have as many investigators in as you want. No one's going to prove or disprove that.
Yeah, it's got them spurts.
What? How much of a circus? Well, obviously, it'd be a big circus, but say they did allow some kind of defense of that, and then they brought in investigators for testimony, paranormal investigators for their testimony on the case.
They would really have. That would have to be some like incredible evidence that they brought in.
Right, and I could see how it goes too, because they'd be doing real good right up until the point it goes, and then my psychic said,
Yeah.
just like when they're talking at the paranormal conventions with us,
Yeah,
and
it's just,
stuff. It's like
that's just like.
But okay, so here's the deal: they do allow psychic testimony. The cops have been known to use psychics to find bodies and stuff like that, and they've been known to use
ridiculous.
psychic testimony on the stand. So why would a paranormal investigator be any different?
I mean, that's fair.
No, I don't think it's fair. I don't think we should be
we
allowing
should-
psychic testimony
No,
either.
I mean, giving the fact that they do, it is fair to say that you know there's not really much of a difference in having a paranormal investigator.
I don't
that-
know. It's
it's insane.
Yeah, it is insane, and it says a lot about our justice system that we would allow something like that. Because, and the other thing is too is it's also because the judge has to allow it, and the prosecution and the defense have to allow it too. Like everybody has to think that this is a good idea and that it's somehow valid, and I don't know. I can't think of a case where they brought in like Lorraine Warren and she testified or anything like that. But it would just be nuts because what would you do if like we were called in on a case to weigh in?
I would say we don't count as expert witnesses because we're not expert.
Yeah.
The thing is we're just as much expert witnesses as any other paranormal team.
I don't think any paranormal team can testify.
That's the truth. But what? Okay, so let's say this though.
Our testimony really should. If things went right, our testimony shouldn't matter. It shouldn't count.
Right, it's true. Okay, but look at it from they've decided they're going to bring paranormal investigators in
beyond the shadow of a doubt
to come in, and they're going to give an opinion. If we turn it down and we say we're not doing it, they're going to bring in somebody else. Do we take that step?
Oh hell yeah!
Because the thing is, in good conscience, could you let another investigative team do that, knowing how other investigative teams do some of the work?
No, and I want to be in a law book for landmark cases.
Really? That's what you want to be known for? Sarah Hatfield testified on this case as a paranormal witness.
There would definitely be a rule named after that.
The Heimlich maneuver?
Because you have the Dalbert motion, the McNaughton rule. Not the McNaughton rule. Is it the McNaughton?
These all sound like football plays.
Lawyering is not an interest of mine.
I don't know. It's an interesting thought. So
The Twinky defense.
Yeah, that's one I always fall back on.
It's real.
The what?
The Twinkie defense.
What's the Twinkie defense?
Harvey Milk, the guy that...
Yeah, he said he loaded up on a bunch of
Twinkies
and sugary foods, and that's what made him crazed enough to kill Harvey Milk.
It works. We already proved this earlier in the podcast.
What?
Sugar makes serial killers. They all have jobs working in chocolate factories,
They don't all have
candy
jobs.
stores. So if you
John
load
Wayne
up,
Gacy was a contractor.
and if you,
I bet he ate sugar.
he was around it.
Oh,
If you
he
work
did.
for Coca-Cola, you drink a lot of Coca-Cola. I'm just saying, high fructose corn syrup, sugar, it makes serial killers. It's the perfect defense.
He did own a KFC.
Oh, yeah. He had a franchise.
He had a franchise.
Boom. All right, you guys heard it here. Sugar makes serial killers. Paranormal.
I don't think we should say that.
If you ever murder someone, you should call us in to testify.
You should call us in. We will definitely come testify on your behalf.
Zach says he's all jacked up on Mountain Dew. Maybe I shouldn't go home.
Yeah, probably. You're going to get murdered.
I'm gonna get
Oh
murdered.
my God! Yeah.
I'm gonna get murdered when I get home.
Zach's going to be the first person to call in the paranormal investigators on
no,
his court case.
For
I'm
his
gonna go
case.
to Marge
At least for a domestic violence case, like Allie got slapped around. Well, Zach had a lot of Mountain Dew, and
Ghost told him to do it.
And a ghost told him to do it. Yeah.
Or it was his dog.
All right,
Paisley.
so that's another great edition of NT Paranormal After Dark. If you've learned anything here, stay away from sugar, kids. And, if you do murder somebody, be sure to let everybody know the devil let you do it or made you do it. But be sure you have your ducks in a row. Make sure you do some really weird shit a couple of months.
Well, and Zach says he's playing this
to that.
video as his defense for his court case.
It's perfect. It's great. I've definitely got you, buddy.
Don't encourage him.
I'm encouraging you, Zach.
Peace out, guys.
All right, bye.